Saturday during the day or night?
Good evening and welcome to Tiebreaker Sports Bar and Grill here on Smithwick Drive. We are here on a Monday night for another edition of the Sports Wrap. Tonight our special guest will be Evan Johnston from the Winterville Recreation Department, and later we will have Jake Allen and Mike Vaughn from Greenville Little League. They will be here to talk about not only this season, but do a little recap of their experience in the World Series last year, the Little League World Series. They were two of the assistants on that team, along with our head coach, Brian Fields. We would like to thank our sponsors tonight. Of course, our Tiebreakers Sports Bar and Grill is our title sponsor, and we'd like to thank Brown Anderson for his support for this show. We are here every Monday night from 6 to 7 p.m. We'd like to thank Pew's Tire and Service Center here in Greenville. They have locations in Greenville, Washington, and Williamston. Also, I'd like to thank Farm Bureau and Bill King. Bill King is one of our new sponsors. And why talk to a salesperson when you can talk to a friend you trust? At North Carolina Farm Bureau, a friend is what you get. That's because we have local agents working for you in every county across the state, offering competitive rates and fast, friendly service. It's more than insurance, it's a relationship. Farm Bureau Insurance, helping you is what we do. Give Bill King a call at 252-413-8850. In Pitt County, call 252-756-3165. So we'd like to thank Tiebreakers, Pew's Tire and Service Center, and Farm Bureau for sponsoring our show. We will be right back with Evan Johnston with the Winterville Recreation Department.
Hey craft beer fans, did you know that Tiebreakers now stocks over 50 craft beers? We have slowly added to our craft beer menu and are continuing to add new crafts weekly with your help. Stop by after work and try one of your favorite craft beers and enjoy one of our handcrafted appetizers, burgers, or salads. If you're serious about your craft beer, then find us on the Untapped app. Tiebreakers is your local spot for food, sports, and entertainment.
Find me the best price on quality tires.
Choose Pew's.
Okay, find me automotive service that I can trust.
Choose Pew's.
It's true. Choosy drivers searching for tires and service they can trust. Choose Pew's.
Now through May 7th, when you buy 4 eligible Bridgestone tires, you can receive a $70 Visa prepaid card by mail. Bridgestone, your journey, our passion.
For quality tires and automotive service you can trust, choose Pew's, where your first price is the right price, guaranteed.
Hey Greenville, are you tired of paying way too much for average food? Then plug Tiebreakers into your GPS and try some of our handcrafted plates. Tiebreakers does all the extra things that the chain restaurants don't do. We hand cut and bread our boneless wings, we hand patty our Angus burgers, we even hand cut and bread our own cheese sticks. Tiebreakers always goes that extra mile for you, our customer. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and caterings. Tiebreakers is your local spot for food, sports, and entertainment.
Welcome back to the Sports Wrap. We are here at Tiebreaker Sports Bar and Grill on Smithwick Drive, and we welcome our guest, Evan Johnston from the Winterville Recreation Department. Evan, good to have you tonight.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having us.
By. Well, kind of topic of our show each week is we call in recreation or organizations throughout the county and give them a chance to talk about their programs. I also like to get to know the people running them. So, Evan, just give us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you got to Winterville.
Sure. I've been in the Greenville, Pitt County, Winterville area for mostly 20 years on. I left and did my internship in Charleston, then came back, and I went to Appalachia my freshman year in college, then came back. So I've been here since '98. Before that, New York State, not New York City, and Maine, and then here since. Moved down here with Dad's job, stayed ever since, went to A.G. Cox and Conley and ECU.
So you're not exactly a native, but homegrown.
Right.
Let's look at the Winterville area. I mean, I moved here in '89 and moved over to Winterville in '99, but just a tremendous growth in that area, and I'm sure that that puts a strain on you, but it's also a good problem to have is there's demand for your services. So just talk about, what you're facing right now with people moving in that area. They're looking for things for their families and their children to do.
Certainly. We get phone calls, almost every day with people new to the area wanting to know what there is to do, what kind of programs and events we offer, athletics, and anything from baseball to Zumba, yoga, summer camps, things like that. So people are, years ago, you would see in recreation primarily sports, or at least that's what everybody thought of in recreation years ago. And now you see trends still in those sports, but also you see trends going to things that are more non-traditional for a lot of recreation departments in Eastern North Carolina, especially smaller recreation departments where they're adding, arts classes and dance classes and mommy and me classes, tennis, pickleball, shuffleboard, and you see a lot of trends like that too with seniors as well. That's another big one that's come about.
Is that a different mindset for you to get into? I don't know if your training or schooling is you focus on one thing, and then I guess you had to be, you really had to be plugged into changes and trends in the community.
We have a lot of stuff that we find out what's going on. We have conferences that we go to, continuing education, things like that. We stay in touch with a lot of other departments in and around the state. So we use that a lot to kind of keep our ear to the ground, but it's one of the big things that I enjoy about recreation. I think a lot of recreation professionals enjoy is that we don't do the same thing every single day, and we have the opportunity to do a number of different things from year to year. So I really enjoy the different opportunities that are presented to us.
Yeah, and what I've noticed in winter was you do a lot of things that really get the families involved, like
Yep.
your movie night and things like that.
Yep.
Just talk about some things like that you've done to bring whole families together.
Sure. We do a lot of different events. We do an Easter egg hunt, and that's for little kids and older kids. We don't actually have an upper age limit on it, so anybody could really come out and participate. We separate them into age groups. We do, Easter egg hunt. We do movies. We do 4 movies each year, and then sometimes we'll have different organizations that will want to partner with us on movies, so we'll offer additional movies. One example is the police department likes to partner with us for National Night Out. A lot of times we'll show a movie for that. We have 4 concerts that we show throughout the year. We do the Christmas parade. We do the town Christmas tree lighting ceremony. So we do a lot of different things that are for families to go out and enjoy, because I know I work a lot outside of normal hours, and as a lot of people do, that's one thing that you find. Unfortunately, you find in this day and age, a lot of the trend of volunteerism is going down. And I think that a lot of that has to do with people working more hours, and they want to spend the time that they do have with their family, which is certainly understandable. So I think that's one thing that people like to see now is the opportunity to do things with their families rather than just individually, so that they can interact with them when they're not at work in the free time.
Obviously, with the programs, you've got to have the facilities to do it. So, at the recreation department, you've got 4 or 5 fields. I know, you had an expansion recently with the new field that I think PCC softball uses occasionally. But for people who haven't been over there, it's just a very nice facility. It accommodates Babe Ruth, Little League, softball. Got tennis courts over there. So just talk about the facilities that you have and any needs you have looking forward, or any expansion plans you have.
We currently have we have 4 baseball fields of our own at Winterville Recreation Park. Or I'll start with Winterville Recreation Park itself. So Winterville Recreation Park, we have 4 baseball fields. 2 of those can be used for multi-purpose, so we use them for things like football and soccer as well. And those fields can accommodate little kids all the way up to what we play for the 11 and 12-year-olds, which is 50-foot mound, 70-foot bases. We have 2 tennis courts. All 4 of the baseball fields are lit. The tennis courts are lit. We have an amphitheater. We have a walking trail. We have a playground, restrooms that we just recently renovated, 2 concession stands, obviously parking. So that's the big things. We do everything from cheerleading and baseball to movies, Easter egg hunts, and concerts there. We also have a really great partnership with Pitt County Schools and A.G. Cox Middle School. where we utilize their softball field and baseball field for different events. We use their baseball field for Junior Babe Ruth. Their softball field we actually use for soccer for little kids ages 4 through 6. Then we play the little kids for baseball too. We do our T-ball, which is 4 and 5, and Pee Wee, which is 5 and 6 over there. We have another park called Water Tower Park. We have a playground there and some seating, but that's a pocket park. And then we also have Hillcrest Park. We have a baseball field there. We have 2 full-length basketball courts that are then divided into 4 basketball courts. We have 2 picnic shelters, restrooms, a walking trail, and then we also have a large open space in the middle that we use for a lot of different activities. A.G. Cox Middle School also uses that for their home soccer games.
Well, A.G. Cox seems like a natural. It's so close.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost like one complex.
Oh, yeah, they've been great partners.
Well, it is baseball season, so let's talk baseball a little bit. You mentioned you have the 50-70, which is a little different from the Little League.
Yes, it
You
is.
guys play Cal Ripken, so it's a little different format. You guys start a little earlier. So just talk about why Cal Ripken for Winterville, what advantage you see of that. Obviously with the 50-70, that prepares those older kids for moving up to high school and
Sure.
middle school.
Yeah, so we've played Babe Ruth forever, as long as I know. I've talked to some folks who have been around, basically since it started, and it was Bambino baseball back then transitioned into Babe Ruth. But Cal Ripken is a division of Babe Ruth baseball. That's why I reference it as Babe Ruth sometimes. But so we've always played that, and it's worked really well for us. I really like the age divisions, which is probably one of the biggest difference between Cal Ripken and Little League and some of your other organizations that you see. The Cal Ripken age groups are 7 and 8, which is referred to as the Rookie League, 9-10, which is referred to as the Minor League, and the 11-12s, which is referred to as the Major League. The Rookie League, the 7-8s, they play on a pitching machine. It's throws from 46 feet, and we play on 60-foot bases. The Minor League, again, is the 9-10s. That's 46-60, 46-foot mound, 60-foot bases. That's where the kids start pitching. And then the 11, 12-year-old Major League, that's 50-70, so 70-foot base pass, 50-foot mound, which, as you mentioned, is a great opportunity for the kids to transition to middle school where they go to 60-90. So that's probably one of the largest differences, is that Major League, the base length difference, and the age group difference.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the age groups, as my son played in the 9-12, and, unless you're a superstar,
Oh, yeah.
you're one at bat, 2 innings, and opportunities really aren't there. So do you see having that league for the 9-10 is really a chance for those kids to get that experience?
Yeah.
And to really grow as a player?
Yeah. That really gives them the opportunity to learn the kid pitch side of it, because hitting off of a pitching machine is much different than going and playing, we'll call it more real baseball, where they're throwing from a kid or hitting from a kid that's pitching. It changes the whole dynamic of the game, from the pitcher to the fielders to the pitcher position, of course, obviously most importantly, but it gives the kids really an opportunity to begin to gain that aspect of it without having to be intimidated by hitting or catching a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking a little bit before we came on about your scheduling. You've had a little break here.
Yep.
Just talk about how you arrange your schedule, and just trying to accommodate families who may want to go out of town, and you're not playing 3 nights a week, practicing 4 nights a week.
Sure. Yeah. So we start. We're probably one of the earliest starting rec leagues in the county. We actually start practicing in mid-February, and then we start our games in March. Usually we do a little preseason tournament for our teams, basically a time to knock the dust off. It doesn't count anything for standings in the regular season or anything like that, so there's not a whole lot of pressure there. And then we transition into the regular season. We started the regular season the 3rd Saturday in March this year. I believe that was March 17th. Played about 3 weeks. And then we took a break for spring break, which turned into 2 weeks for us. We were basically off the Wednesday before Good Friday, and we just picked back up Thursday of last week. We always take off spring break, give families the opportunity to travel, do something aside from baseball, let them have that family time, and then come back and pick it right back up.
I know you hosted some tournaments last year.
Yep.
Do you have some coming in
Yep.
the Winterville?
We host tournaments pretty much every year. This year we are hosting the 10-year-old, the North Carolina Babe Ruth League 10-year-old state tournament. Usually there's about 12 teams in that. North Carolina is actually divided into 2 states for all-star play. We're divided into East and West. So our teams play with the other teams from around the East, and then after state tournaments they go from there into regionals and World Series and stuff, and then they might see teams from elsewhere.
Yeah, obviously it takes a lot to put those on with sponsors and volunteers.
It does.
And parent input. But if sponsors or volunteers want to get involved in that, how do they get in contact with you?
They can get in touch with me. My email address is on the website. They can call our office. Our office information is on the website. Be more than happy to take funds from anybody that's willing to give them. We'll never turn away money if we can help it. But yes, and same with volunteers. Anybody that's willing to give their time to help us out, we're more than willing to take. Volunteers have to pass a background check, and then we're good to go from there.
Yeah. Great. And let's just do a little overview about your other programs.
Sure.
And they got flag football, tackle football, some after-school basketball. So it looks like year-round you've got something available for kids to do.
Yeah. So baseball, we have, like I mentioned before, we actually have 5 different age groups for baseball. So we have the 4-5 T-ball, 5-6 Pee-wee, 7-8 rookie, 9-10 minor, 11-12 major. Then we transition to Junior Babe Ruth, which is the 13 through 15. But this spring, we've got for baseball 43 teams between all those age groups. So 43 teams between the ages of 4 and 15. That's pretty darn good.
So that's what, 550 kids?
Yeah, about that. You figure T-ball Pee-wee averages 11 players per team. The Cal Ripken 7 through 12 ages is about 12 players per team, and then Junior Babe Ruth is 14 or 15 players per team. So yeah. And we have an after-school basketball program we've got going on. We do that 2 days a week. We average probably about 30 to 40 kids per session for that. We do some camps and stuff, a lot of sports camps and stuff sometimes during the summer. And then for our fall programs, we do tackle football 2 ages, we do baseball 3 ages, flag football 2 ages, cheerleading, soccer. We do adult softball. That's during the summer. Those are probably our biggest sports programs. Then we have senior programs that we do monthly. Usually it's bi-weekly, but it kind of depends what's going on. We have, sometimes it's hard to remember all of it. We have, it's a lot to keep up with eventually. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff like that we do. And then we have other things that we are associated with, like the Watermelon Festival, for example. Yeah. The town does not put on the Watermelon Festival, but since it's at a town facility, we're responsible for a lot of the logistical things for that. So, we do a lot of the back end work for things like that. But yeah, we do a lot with Little Winterville. We have a 4-person full-time staff, including myself, and that's 2 doing programs, athletics, administration, special events, all that, and then 2 on maintenance.
Yeah. So
we stay wide open.
I'm sure. Well, it's a tremendous resource for the area. I know people who live in that area count on you to do a lot of things and get their kids involved, get their families involved. So we appreciate all you do, and I appreciate you coming on to tell us about it. If you're interested, just check out the website or give Evan a call and get plugged into what's going on in the Winterville area.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Evan. We'll be right back after this break with the Sports Route.
Hey, craft beer fans, did you know that Tiebreakers now stocks over 50 craft beers? We have slowly added to our craft beer menu and are continuing to add new crafts weekly with your help. Stop by after work and try one of your favorite craft beers and enjoy one of our handcrafted appetizers, burgers, or salads. If you're serious about your craft beer, then find us on the Untapped app. Tiebreakers is your local spot for food, sports, and entertainment.
Find me the best price on quality tires.
Choose Pews.
Okay, find me automotive service that I can trust.
Choose Pews.
It's true. Choosy drivers searching for tires and service they can trust. Choose Pews.
Now through May 7th, when you buy 4 eligible Bridgestone tires, you can receive a $70 Visa prepaid card by mail. Bridgestone, your journey, our passion.
For quality tires and automotive service you can trust, choose Pews, where your first price is the right price, guaranteed.
Hey Greenville, are you tired of paying way too much for average food? Then plug Tiebreakers into your GPS and try some of our handcrafted plates. Tiebreakers does all the extra things that the chain restaurants don't do. We hand cut and bread our boneless wings, we hand patty our Angus burgers, we even hand cut and bread our own cheese sticks. Tiebreakers always goes that extra mile for you, our customer. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and caterings. Tiebreakers is your local spot for food, sports, and entertainment.
Sports Bar and Grill on Smithwick Drive. I'd like to thank Evan Johnston for stopping by. We will have at Jake Allen and Mike Vaughn from Greenville Little League coming on soon. But first, we are going to look back at the weekend sports and take a little look ahead. Let's start off in college baseball. ECU dropped 2 of 3 last weekend against South Florida. Took the opener. There were 2 lopsided games. They took that opener 15-3. Then South Florida bounced back and won 13-1 and 5-4 on Sunday. ECU was ranked 7th. They dropped in the polls this week to 12th in D1Baseball.com and 11th in Baseball America. Pitt Community College swept 3 games from Guilford Technical Community College. Hit double digits in all 3 games. The Bulldogs won 14-4 in 5 innings in the first game on Saturday. Then had to come back in the second game and won 11-10. Then Bulldogs won Sunday's game by a score of 11-1. That was also in 5 innings. They hit 3 home runs in the 5th inning after a rain delay. Wind was blowing probably 30 to 40 miles an hour, and they come out and Drew Piscoric, Mikey Polanski, and Reese Farmer all hit home runs in that 7-run inning. So they were 4-1, come out, score 7 runs, pack it up, and go home. But the Bulldogs now are 13-1 in Region 10 play, sitting in first place. They've won 15 of 16 games, won 8 in a row. The Bulldogs started the season ranked 5th in the country, dropped out of the polls, but they were just 1 point out of the top 20 this week. So we look forward to see if they jump into the polls. But Bulldogs are sitting at 21st. Bulldogs are at Lenore Community College, one of their top rivals. They'll play 2 games this Saturday and 1 on Sunday. They'll head to Methodist the following Wednesday and then come home for a 3-game series with New River Community College. Turning to high school, look at the Eastern Carolina 3A, 4A. Conley still sits in first place at 6-1. The Vikings are 15-2 overall. J.H. Rose is at 5-2, 13-4. The Rose did get Hunter Christopher back, and they are 11-0 with Hunter in the lineup. Southern Wayne is at 4-2, 8-6. CB Aycock at 4-3. Aycock's 5-3, 15-3 overall. They're still a very dangerous team, and they play both Rose and Conley this week. But all 3 of their losses have come in conference play, but they started the season number 1 in Class 3A. So Aycock's still a dangerous team, sitting in 4th place. Newbern's at 2-5, 6-8. South Central's kind of played in some tough luck this year. They're at 2-5, 8-7. They've got 2 very good pitchers in Scott Mayo and Drew Nichols, and started to hit the ball a little bit. But South Central's a dangerous team when those 2 guys are on the mound. One of those 2 guys. Eastern Wayne's at 1-6, 3-12. Conley last week defeated South Central 5-0. Beat Jacksonville 6-4 and then blew out Eastern Wayne 15-0. Rose picked up a couple of wins last week, defeating South Central 14-4 and Middle Creek 5-4. Also beat New Bern 6-5. South Central had 3 road games last week. They lost to Conley 5-0. defeated Eastern Wayne 7-5 and then lost to Rose 14-4. Conley is actually at home today at 5 o'clock against Wakefield. Then they go to Riverside on Thursday and play at Charles B. Aycock on Friday. Rose is at Charles B. Aycock on Tuesday, then has a 1 week break before playing Southern Wayne at home. South Central has a couple of home games this week. They host Southern Wayne on Tuesday and Eastern Wayne on Friday, so a chance for the Falcons to move up in the standings a little bit, playing Southern Wayne and Eastern Wayne. In the East Carolina Conference 2A, Greene Central and North Lenore and South Lenore all tied at 5-2. West Craven and Washington are at 4-3. Ayden-Grifton sits at 1-5, 10-7 overall. And Kinston is at 0-7, 0-11. Ayden-Grifton this week is at South Lenore. Then they host Northside on Thursday and Washington on Friday. In the Eastern Plains Conference 2A, is jumbled at the top with North Johnston and Nash Central at 4-0. North Pitt, Southwest Edgecombe, Farmville Central, and Bedingfield are all at 1-3. North Pitt 7-10 overall. They've got a home with Southwest this week. They host Southwest on Thursday and then travel to over to Pine Tops to face the Cougars on Friday. Farmville Central has a home with North Johnston, so they host the top team in the conference on Tuesday, then travel to Kenley to play North Johnston on Friday. In softball, the Falcons of South Central are on quite a roll, and call them the comeback kids because they won five of their last 6 games, or 4 of their last 6 games in the last inning in comeback fashion. But South Central 6-0, 13-1 overall, and they defeated Conley 2-1 last week, scoring a run in the 7th and a runner in the 8th. And they went on the road to Heritage. Heritage has outscored their opponents 92-5 in 8 games and was 8-0. Conley comes back to win that game 5-4, and then the Falcons blow out Rose 22-0 on Friday. CB Aycock is 6-1. The only conference loss was to South Central by a 5-4 score. Conley sits at 5-2. Southern Wayne's at 3-3. New Bern 2-5. Rose is at 1-6, and Eastern Wayne at 0-6. Conley this week has Washington on Wednesday and CB Aycock on Friday. South Central is playing Southern Wayne today and Greene Central on Wednesday. Rose is at Charles B. Aycock, travels to North Pitt on Thursday, and at Hunt on Saturday. Turn it over to Greenville Little League. We'll look at the North State League. Overton's, Coca-Cola, Optimus, and Ross are all off to 2-1 starts. Physicians East, Host Lions, Kiwanis, and Sylvan all stand at 1-2. In the Tar Heel League, Eastern Plumbing, Brown and Wood are at 3-1. Remax, Carolina Windows and Doors are at 2-1. Pepsi and Jarman Auto Sales are at 1-2, and EC Auto and BB&T stand at 0-3. Over in the Winterville League, in the major division, Dependable is 4-0. Brighton's Braves at 3-1. NC Driving School is at 2-2. Camp Hatteras Pirates at 1-3, and the Astros at 0-4. The minor league, the White Sox are 4-1. Red Sox and Yankees are at 3-1. The Pirates and Astros at 1-3, and the Cubs at 1-4. In the rookie league, Shoe Carnival is at 4-0. Dash and Storm are both 3-0. Grasshoppers and Computer Peripherals stand at 1-2. Weatherly Insurance and River Bandits are at 1-3, and the Blue Rocks are at 0-4. So that's your sports route for this week. We will take a break, and we will be back with Jake Allen and Mike Vaughn with the Greenville Little League Kiwanis team.
Hey, craft beer fans, did you know that Tiebreakers now stocks over 50 craft beers? We have slowly added to our craft beer menu and are continuing to add new crafts weekly with your help. Stop by after work and try one of your favorite craft beers and enjoy one of our handcrafted appetizers, burgers, or salads. If you're serious about your craft beer, then find us on the Untapped app. Tiebreakers is your local spot for food, sports, and entertainment.
Find me the best price on quality tires.
Choose Pews.
Okay, find me automotive service that I can trust.
Choose Pews.
It's true. Choosy drivers searching for tires and service they can trust. Choose Pews.
Now through May 7th, when you buy 4 eligible Bridgestone tires, you can receive a $70 Visa prepaid card by mail. Bridgestone, your journey, our passion.
For quality tires and automotive service you can trust, choose Pews, where your first price is the right price, guaranteed.
Hey Greenville, are you tired of paying way too much for average food? Then plug Tiebreakers into your GPS and try some of our handcrafted plates. Tiebreakers does all the extra things that the chain restaurants don't do. We hand cut and bread our boneless wings, we hand patty our Angus burgers, we even hand cut and bread our own cheese sticks. Tiebreakers always goes that extra mile for you, our customer. Open every day for lunch.
Welcome back to the Sports Wrap. We're here at Tiebreaker Sports Bar and Grill on Smithwick Drive. We have with me tonight Jake Allen and Mike Vaughn from the Kiwanis team, the K-Tribe in Greenville Little League. Also, two of the coaches that went on that memorable journey last summer to Williamsport. So their summer was quite full last summer, but before we talk about that, I want to just talk about how you guys got involved in Little League, because I think Greenville's kind of unique in that there's so many guys involved who don't have kids, and I don't know if that's unique elsewhere because I haven't been to that many towns, but you know, I think most leagues you have dads are involved. When their kids get in, they get out. But I think when I look at Greenville, you've got so much stability within some of the programs. Neither one of you guys have kids in the program, so just tell me what drew you to Greenville Little League and why you wanted to get involved. Jake?
Me personally, Mike's probably a better person to take this question. Mike actually got me involved. Norm brought him in probably 9 or 10 years ago, and he loved it. And, you know, I was just coming out of playing, and I wanted to come out there, and I actually got hurt. And so I had to take a year off. I was actually on crutches, so I really couldn't go out there. But I went out there a time or two, and, you know, you just kind of fall in love with it, and you want to pass on your knowledge to the little kids. But who got me in was Mike, and then I just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. And Mike, we talked about your story a little bit last summer, and I know your dad was involved quite a bit, and just kind of go back over how you got involved in Little League and kind of what you've gotten out of it since you've been in.
Well, I think Norm Bryant reached out to my dad, and he needed some help with Kiwanis. And actually, Debbie Hudson overheard him talking and was like, actually, me and Jake were actually playing softball together on the weekends and stuff at the time. And Debbie said, you need to ask Mike. He'd be a good one to help you, Norm. And I played Greenville Little League for Overton's for 4 years, and I was involved. It's a great program. It's always been a great program. That sometimes gets misconstrued. You know, it's been a great program for 50-some years.
Right. Yeah.
So not one person makes or breaks the league. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I started the first year, and we just happened to go undefeated, and I think we lost to your sons.
Yeah.
Was he 9 that year?
Yeah.
He was
Jarman,
9.
yeah.
We lost. Jarman's beat us in a 3-game series.
You guys were 22-0, and then 25-0 going to the state.
25-0 going to the city championship, and then we lost. We had one kid, Parker Hudson, first kid I ever drafted. He went on an Alaskan cruise right before the city championship, and
we paid for that.
Yeah. And Norm Bryant, he left practice one day and was like, Mike, you're in charge of practice. And the first day of I was in charge right before the city championship. Will Wilder dives for a ball and breaks his collarbone. So right for the city championship. But I liked it and I enjoyed it. And Norm was like, you know, I'm stepping down. I want you to take over the team. And I really didn't think that I would like it as much as I did, but I fell in love with it. It's been real rewarding, and you know, last summer was just icing on the cake. I probably should have left then. But then Jake came along, and me and him been best friends since we known each other since we were 14 years old, and it's been me, him, and Norm been together ever since. So it's been a great thing.
Yeah. Norm would never retire, will he?
I don't know. I think all three of us are leaning that way a little bit.
It's still early. But I mean, Norm's another one of those guys who, like I talk about, you know, who stayed plugged in. You look at, I mean, you know, Eric Jarman had a long run, and then once Wade aged out, you know, and then, you know, Brian went through with his two kids, and you know, Frankie Pugh with Davis. But I mean, there's some other guys like Vince Vincent who have stayed in once his kid got out. So,
Corey Scott,
yeah,
he came in. Me, Corey Scott, and Brian Fields all came in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
all our first years were the same time. So none of us had a kid at the time in the league. Now Landon's up there.
That's quite a good draft year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys see that as a strength of the league when you've got that stability, you get your programs in place, and if a 9-year-old kid comes into your program, he doesn't have to change and adjust midway through if a coach steps away. Do you really see that as a strength of Greenville's program?
Well, I think it helps. What you don't want to see is, coaches come in and they know they're going to be there 4 years, and they kind of stack their team for 1 year, and then they're off in the night, and it takes that team or the next coach 3, 4, 5 years to rebuild it to where it's a stable team that can compete year in, year out. Greenville is just one of those leagues. It's very competitive. You're a 16-team league, and it's very hard to stay at the top. And it's kind of a credit when you look at guys like Eric Jarman of the past who've just been a staple in that top 1 or 2 places. And even Mike, since I've came in with him, we've been in the top 2 or 3 for 8, 9 years straight, and it's very hard to do that. And you get to a point, when you're doing that, you're drafting 15th and 16th pick, and then so the stability of it definitely helps when you're building for one goal, and you're not worried about 1 year, or this is my year, or this is my son's year. You kind of take it over and you say, hey, I want to give these kids a chance to compete every year. And that was our goal when we came in. We wanted our kids to have a chance to compete for a city championship every single year, or at least a North State championship, and we've done that. And that's a credit to Mike, drafting and building the program the way it should have been built.
Yeah, I think we saw that. Nick's 12-year-old, EC Alto had, it was Holton's last year. They had 7 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then, the year after that, they they had 7 draft picks, and then, like you say, it took them 3, 4, 5 years to rebuild, and finally they were competitive last year.
And you still see some effects of what happened. When and especially in a lot of times in those cases when you got those 6, 7 picks, you're picking 16th or 17th, and it's not a snake draft. So you get the last pick of the first round, the last pick of the second round, and and typically Greenville has great turnout, and you usually have around 130 to 140 kids trying out, and there's only 60 spots.
Right. So
but even finding those picks in that last 5 rounds, that's when you got to use some imagination of what can you do with this kid.
Yeah, and I know coaches have different strategies. I know Eric, he would get 3 9-year-olds, and they go through his program. That was his. He rarely drafted a 12 or 11-year-old unless it was a rare occasion. Some coaches, like you say, they'll load up 1 year, and if there's 12s or 11s.
We actually have 6 12s this year.
So,
Kiwanis does have 6 12s. Yeah. So,
but do you have a different strategy every year depending on what your needs are, or do you have one you kind of stick with?
We've done both. We've drafted 3 9s, and we drafted a 4th round 12-year-old, and just having another to round out your class and everything. This year we more or less went with needs, because in the past we've been very lucky, very fortunate with kids of Ashton and JoJo and Cameron and Wu and Harrison Gray and Chase Cobb, who were all very flexible baseball players. And this year, going into the draft, we knew that we needed a little middle infield help and some pitching help. And I think we got that in what we're drafting a couple kids we got. Next year is going to be a rough year for Kiwanis, and we know that. We're fully aware of that. But sometimes, that's just the nature of the beast.
Right.
It goes in cycles. And my goal always, as a manager, what we told the kids was, every time you step on the field, I want you to have a chance to win the ball game.
Right.
And I felt like we've done that, and we fulfilled that over 9-10 years. So this year, having the 6 12s, it wasn't ideal, but it came to us, and I think they were put in our life for a reason, and we're gonna roll what we got.
Now, when you look around the league this year, what I've noticed when the games I've been out to is these kids that got that all-star experience this year. They've taken their game to a new level. They got all that experience, all that confidence. Have you seen that throughout the league? Is those kids who played on those tournament of state champion teams, the 9s and 10s and the 11s, really stepping it up this year?
In some ways, they definitely they came in with a bit more confidence than what you would normally expect because they've been there, and and even being there, it kind of gives you a sense of what you're going to see, and I think that's the hardest part. When you talk about Little League is, you get so used to being in that district and going to the state and winning a state, I mean, that's a huge step, but, once you've done it and you go back, you know what to expect in the competition and the level of play that you have to raise your game to. Because, I think a good indication was a couple years ago with my nephew's team and, North State, and Mike coached that team with Brian Fields, and that team might have been better player for player than the team this year. But you run into a guy in the state championship throwing 80 miles an hour, and you just can't hit him. And, and there's no – you just don't know if that's going to happen. And even this year, most people don't know it because it goes unknown because we won the game. But East Surrey had a pitcher we didn't touch. Nah. We did not touch this kid. And if the coach – I can't blame him for pulling him with the pitch count and the way the tournaments go, and you have to be really strategic in these tournaments. But – if they throw this kid another inning, we might not even win the state.
Yeah.
And
that game's 5-1. You got one hit going into the 6th inning. And
that's right. And so you never know what you're going to run into. It's good to have that experience though, because you're not. It's hard to take a 12-year-old and tell them, hey, this is a state championship game. Don't be nervous. And you can't. It's hard to prepare for those kind of situations. And so I think being there kind of gives you an indication of the level of play and the fact that you've won it now. Now you expect to win it when you go back to it.
One thing touching on that is I think the kids have more confidence this year because of what they faced last year. I mean, when you were facing Thomas Barrett throwing upper 60s, Chase Anderson throwing upper 60s, Matthew throwing mid 70s, Carson throwing 70, Cameron throwing about 64, 65. I mean, every night in North State, it was you were facing a really good pitcher. Optimus was the only team that struggled last year, and they were young. They're a lot better this year, which, like I said, it goes in cycles. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And with that on the North State side and the Tar Heel side, there's no doubt when you win a state with the regional 9, 10, and 11, there's no doubt you come back with a lot more confidence. And you can see it out there, absolutely. The one thing that I see more differently this year than any other year is definitely the bat change. The scores are low. You got to play defense. You got to play small ball. You got to manufacture runs. You got to steal bases. You got to take opportunities when they're given to you. And it's a lot of low scoring games. It's a lot more coaching involved. I feel like I know on our behalf it is. I don't have JoJo and Cole and Cameron and Ashton all hitting home runs a lot of stuff.
But there's definitely a different sound off the bat.
Oh
this
yeah,
year. So you've seen
dinks. Like a dink, yeah.
But I mean, you're seeing a dramatic difference in how the ball jumps off the bat this year.
I'm seeing a realistic difference. And I'm not taking anything away from a lot of the kids that I've seen over the past 6, 7, 8, 9 years. But kids that hit home runs now should be hitting home runs. Kids that some kids hit home runs in the past had no business hitting home runs in Little League. And I mean, I think now when a kid hits a bomb now, he earned it. Yeah.
It's not the equipment.
He didn't miss hit. I see a lot of miss hits in the past of just pop-ups that go over. Now, I mean, those pop-ups are 130-foot fly balls.
Yeah.
And I think it makes the Little League game better. It's not as exciting, but I think it's a better baseball game right now. I think there's more. You got to coach a lot more. You got to train your kids to be ready. I mean, we have to work on defense a whole lot more than we probably have in the past. So I enjoy it as a coach, but as a fan, I like to see the home runs.
Yeah, obviously, as coaches, you have to get along. You have to complement each other, and each of you brings different things to the table. You were manager last year. You've taken over as manager this year. So I guess just talk about how you guys get along as what your personalities and your strengths as far as working with pitchers, hitters.
When I stepped in, I came in with one purpose, and that was I wanted to work with pitching. And then, I know I can work with hitters, but, my main focus was work with pitchers. Fortunately for Mike's one of those people, when he talks, people listen, and that's the parents and that's the kids. So, it kind of worked out well because he kind of has that bad cop fear factor for the kids. So when he starts talking, they're quieten up and they know what they're expected to do. so that's kind of always helped me. You know, I never really had to play the role, and and he was always really good at it because you know, like I said, but when he speaks, you know, they know he's serious, and then you know you bring it back and you tell him, you know, you compliment and you do that, and so I think just our personalities, you know, individually are fine, but when you kind of mix it together, you kind of get the best of both worlds. And then you got Norm right there too, who's just a motivational guy, you know. And I've told the kids before, you know, he'll give speeches and I'm fired up, you know. And I kind of look at the kids and I'm like, if you guys aren't fired up, I don't know what's wrong here. So you know, Norm
could coach anything.
He
could coach hockey. He probably never played a game of hockey in his life. He could coach hockey. He had the boys out there skating, thinking they were Mighty Ducks.
So I definitely think the balance of just what we've had for the past 8, 9, 10 years, I mean, it's been incredible because, you know, each one of us kind of brings a little bit something different to the table.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He hit the nail on the head. It's 3 different personalities, 3 different styles, and it works. And it works well together. And the same thing went with All-Stars with Brian Fields.
Yeah.
It's just, and him and Norm are actually 2 totally different too. So it's just, you know, it all works well and it's fun. I mean, you make lifelong friendships coaching together.
Yeah.
I mean, really, your son played it. You're lifelong friends with Eric probably to this day.
Right.
Your son played 4 years with him. And that's the one thing that I'll take away more than anything from Greenville Little League, that I made lifelong friends. And that means more than all the wins, the losses. When I have someone like Robbie Wacker, the starting shortstop at J.H. Rose, walks by me and says, "What's up, Coach Mike?" That means more than any wins or losses to me.
Yeah. I got this weird sensation when I went out to Rose because I coached Hunter and Greg Hardison, a lot of those guys in basketball. So I go out to do a story on baseball and they're like, "Hey, Coach," and I'm like, "Oh, they're talking to me." But they always know you as coach.
Oh yeah.
No matter what role you're in. But
yeah.
But that was pretty cool that, you know, those guys. But I had a team. I said, "Guys, if we can't play basketball, we'll sure take them on in baseball." I had Michael Crumpler, Ross Johnson.
I'm sure you won a few basketball games too, though.
We won 2 state championships, 2 county city championships. But
you put a baseball player in any sport, and they're going to compete.
They were out there to have fun, and of course, Hunter got a broken nose this year. One minute into the first game, I look out there and there's blood everywhere, and I'm like, he comes over, "Coach, I think I broke my nose." So I didn't have my #1 pick for the whole year, so that kind of hurt us.
That's good coaching.
It is
good coaching.
I'm just glad I didn't get a call from RV because, you know, then he goes off and gets a concussion. Wilson, so his mom she said, "I'm going to put that boy in bubble wraps."
You got to do what you got to do sometimes.
All right, well, let's talk World Series. Just an incredible summer last year. I mean, do you guys ever just sit back and just say, "Wow, we were a part of that"?
It hits you differently at times. You know, people. It's amazing that people will just come up to you randomly and want to talk to you about it, and you'll have no clue who they are, and they'll just find you on the street and say, "How do I know you?" And then somebody in the crowd will say, "Well, you probably saw him on ESPN," and you know, it took a little while for it to sink in of what we did. And it's incredible how, you know, it's an experience. You never trade for anything, just the learning portion of it, and then the fraternity of, you know, the coaches in there. And probably one of the coolest things I remember is Jerry Hale. He was the Tennessee coach, and he's won one. And was it you he called, Mike? He called one of the coaches. It might have been Norm. It might have been Norm, and Norm called
Norm talked to him.
And just told him and say, "Hey, look, man, you know, I'm watching your guys on TV, and you know they need to do X, Y, Z." And you know, and Norm calls and relays the message, and then we're kind of looking at it like, you know what, he's absolutely right. And that's the cool part of it is you've got coaches that have been there, and then, you know, they want to see you go there, and they want to see you succeeding in it. And so, I mean, you know, it's kind of a fraternity that you join. You know, it's a select few people who ever get to do it, and, you know, you can coach your whole life and never get that opportunity because it takes so much. I mean, it's just a perfect storm of talent, luck, and you know, just the right calls. I mean, you know, you can be as good as you want, but you still have to be lucky.
Right.
Yes.
You know.
It takes a lot of luck.
Well, it's cool going back, and I got the opportunity to go in '98 with the team, and it was so cool going back and talking to those guys and the coaches on that team and kind of reliving those memories. And, you know, to a player, they're like, you know, we wished we would have enjoyed it more because we were so focused on baseball. And especially Kevin Hodges said that, is, you know, because Kevin wanted to go back. He says, "I just want to go in and kind of soak up everything this time, because last time all I wanted to do was win. All I wanted to do was play baseball."
I tell people that's my advice to anybody that ever goes back. The first day we were in the meeting, they bring all the coaches in there and they give you the speech and they say, I want you to have fun. You're one of the top 8 teams in the country, 16 teams in the world. Have fun, embrace this. And the night before we played South Dakota, I told Jake right before we about to go to bed, I said, man, I just don't want to go 0-3 because I knew a lot of people were coming up from Greenville. I just felt, I didn't really want to let them down or whatever. We went out there and won the first game, and I was like, and then we went out there and had a real good game versus California. And so then that Sunday at night, I thought, man, we can win this thing. I lost all focus on fun. No more fun. And then all I thought about was win. And looking back, I should have enjoyed it a little bit more. And, just instead I was pretty uptight. I wanted to win, and I tell people that all the time. I wish that would have been the only thing I'd done different. I would have enjoyed it more and embraced it all. Sometimes in life, when things are going on around you, you're so worried about the next thing, you're not even enjoying the stuff that's right there in front of your face. Yeah. And that's pretty much where I was as a coach during that. I was so wrapped up in winning, and I didn't even really fully enjoy it like I should have.
Yeah. The neat thing I found this time, they didn't have the other stadium last time I was there. So this time I'm there for 2 weeks, and I went and sat in a couple of international games, and just to see their cultures and their songs and their chants and their cheers, and just see how the international teams interact. I mean, I found that just very amazing.
I thought, one of the most probably incredible moments that we had down there off the baseball field was talking with the Caribbean coach and their translator. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, he just Adrian. From Puerto Rico.
Yeah. He's got Facebook. Look him up.
Yeah. He was just kind of going over with some stuff, and then he came and showed the boys pictures, and they were like, well, what is this? And I mean, it looked like a cornfield. And he's like, well, this is where that team practices.
The trash was all around everywhere, animals and stuff. Yeah.
And then you talk with the coach, and the coach told us, he's like, I've coached Robinson Cano. I coached David Ortiz when they were 12. And I mean, it was a list of, Hall of Fame caliber major leaguers that had run through his program. And then you kind of look at what they have, and then you look at our kids and like, man, you guys are practicing at Elm Street. Y'all practice on one of the nicest fields in America, and these kids are practicing in a cornfield. But you see the work and just the desire they put into it. And I mean, probably one of the moments they'll be playing on ESPN for the rest of our lives is the little kid falling down on the mound. Well, me and Mike were at that game, and and he was.
He didn't talk to us for 2 days.
No,
I walked by him. I said, "Man, pick your head up." He didn't want to talk.
But
because they remember though, they thought they let their country down.
That's right.
When they lost, that's how he felt. And that kid was Eduardo. He was a catcher, and he pitched, and he gave up that game-winning hit. But yeah, he felt the different cultures in not Italy so much, and not Australia, but the Dominican, Japan,
a lot of national pride.
Korea team, Mexico. When they lost, they felt like they let their country down and stuff. So I mean, they took it real serious, and
I mean, it was incredible. I remember, when they do the skills, and you go out and you meet with the baseball
Dream
Factory baseball, and now all they are is a recruiting service. And we watched the Caribbean team go, and I remember I looked at Mike and was like, man, we're in trouble. If everybody's like this, we're in trouble.
They were so much better than us in those drills.
But it was neat, the little kid that was crying on the mound, Eduardo, he went over there and was giving a chant in the speech. And I was kind of like, man, I wish I was in that speech with them. I mean, they're bouncing up and down and going. I mean, just the way that they approach the game is incredible. I mean, it really is.
They play the game the right way. They hustle out every ball. They give it 110%. I'm sure there's some that don't, but from what we saw, that they don't take it for granted. And that was one thing we tried to really push on the kids this summer. And I felt like for the most part that our kids ran every ball out. They held, we held them to a higher level than a lot of other teams I've seen out there. I've seen a lot of Little League teams during the Little League World Series throw bats, get upset, say some bad words and stuff. Our team, they held themselves really to a high standard, and that was the one thing I was more proud of when I got back as a coach than making it that far. because they played the game the right way.
Yeah, and I think I won a lot of fans along the way because I went into a restaurant there in Williamsport and saw some Southeast hats and like, hey, y'all from Greenville? And they're like, no, we're from New York. We come every year and adopt a team, and we just like that team.
When we lost to Texas in the national championship game, I remember walking out. We didn't stay to watch Texas play in the the World Championship. We left, and I remember walking out, and everybody at the gate of every gate we went to just came up to us and said, I've never wanted to see an elimination game as much as I want to see between you and Texas. Yeah. I mean, the fan support we got from the locals that grew. Because I remember telling Mike one of the first nights down there, and I was just sitting in the crowd, no Southeast gear on, nothing, and I came back to the room and I told Mike, I said, the people in the stands are giving us no shot. I mean, they're giving us no shot. And then, and after we won our first game, it was still the same thing in the crowd. And then after we beat Texas, that's kind of when
we beat California.
When we beat California, that's kind of when everybody in the crowd, you started seeing the people wearing that Southeast gear, which you saw from Greenville anyway. I think that from the locals' perspective, I think they said Greenville traveled more than any other team
that wasn't from Pennsylvania.
That was not from Pennsylvania.
We had the biggest showing. Most yellow.
Were y'all amazed when you looked up? I mean, it was just a sea of yellow behind your dugout.
It really didn't feel real. I mean, the craziest thing was before the game, we're trying to talk to the kids and just saying, hey, don't look up in the stands. When you step on the field, keep your head on the field. Don't get caught looking up in the stands because it can be overwhelming. And then what you don't want to do is you start looking around and then that pressure build up on you. And I really think our kids probably handle it better than the coaches did, because I caught myself looking up there, but the boys kind of stayed in the moment and they kept pushing, and you could tell that they wanted to win, and I think that was the biggest thing. They weren't satisfied to be there; they wanted to get better, and I will say, from the regional to the Williamsport to the tournament, from when we played in Georgia to when we played in Williamsport, we got so much better at everything. I mean, defense, hitting, pitching, everything just seemed to elevate. And that's a credit to the kids and their personality and their character and their families for kind of instilling that into them.
Yeah. We talked about it. It's so hard to get there. We saw it in 98. They had a dominant pitcher in Kevin Hodges, and then, right after they won, everybody's like, okay, when's the next one? Is this team going to go? And I think everybody had pointed at, Holton's team with Holton and Hunter and Grant Charles and those guys, and they got within. I think they ended up losing to Goodlettsville, Tennessee, the team that went. But like you say, it takes more than talent. You've got to have some breaks, whether it's a rain out or matchups or whatever. And you guys came into two situations where you're undefeated going against Georgia, and they've got one loss. Just the way it's made for TV, you lose that, you go home.
And we did have a rain out.
Yeah.
Did have that rain out the first night in the regional.
Yeah, because Brian was worried about having to play a doubleheader.
And that can really hurt. And we were really upset about it. I think one of the things that doesn't go noticed, in the regional, I don't think it mattered who came out of our regional. They were going to have success in Williamsport.
Absolutely.
There were four really, really good teams.
Tennessee, even at the regional, and I'll say it now, after watching them, I thought it was going to come down to Georgia and Tennessee. Just watching them play, everybody they threw on the mound was throwing hard, throwing strikes, defense making plays, and they were both hitting.
West Virginia had 6 guys throw 70+, and they went 0-2. Just think about that. They went 0-2.
Yeah.
The boy from Alabama might have been the best pitcher I saw all summer.
Yeah.
He was throwing 78, 79, and he only got to throw the first game. And then they lost, I think, like 2-1. It was something crazy like that. And the boy from Virginia was real good. You saw, if you took an all-star team, and this is no lie, I tell people all the time, if you put together an all-tournament team from the 7 other American teams or in just our regional, we would have beat them. That's how hard that's how tough that regional is to win.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not taking anything away from the other teams. I thought that the 2 boys from Texas were 2 of the best players I saw all summer long. And the second baseman, he was just as smooth. And the boy Marcus, the guy we played against the first night from South Dakota, man, I saw him hit 2 bombs the next night. I'm like, yeah. I mean, he was good. If he would have hit that ball when Matthew pitched and he fell, if he would have hit that,
It's still been going.
he would have hit that to South Dakota.
Yeah, I definitely those two kids from Texas. I mean, the good thing about it though, they were great kids. I mean, they weren't cocky. They were humble. I mean, and I remember asking them. We were all in the van on the way to an interview, and I looked at the Cody Ross kid and the Ditsworth kid, and I was like, well, who's better pitcher between you two? And I mean, both of them were like, we're the same. We're the exact same. and the funny thing was, I mean, both of them were. I mean, they were both throwing 73 to 75. Both had curveballs. I mean, and I still, the famous play of Mike holding the runner. And
You're not going to live that down, are you?
I don't think so.
The funny thing was,
the
funny thing was is right before that play, I went to Mike and I was like, look, man, just don't test the center fielder's arm.
That was Cody. He pitched against us next night.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a gun.
Yeah, and I told Mike, I said, don't test his arm.
And nobody knows this, but when Cash was on second, if you went back and you look at that play, he hit a ground ball to third, he booted it. Then he took second where he should have been thrown out second. But when he got to second, my face was already like, what is he doing? It's the game-winning run. But I told him, I said, base hit to the left or right field, we're going. Base hit up the middle, we're holding. I mean, I had faith in our hitters we could put the ball in play. We didn't strike out much.
Yeah.
And, that's what we had to do at the end. I didn't know that Bud, the coach for Texas, went out there and told they were going to walk Carson. I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. Yeah. But I had faith in Thomas, and Thomas was really hitting. He was hitting at 600, I think, for the World Series. He was doing great, so there was no doubt that I knew that we were going to put the ball in play when I held Cash. Bases loaded, and let's put it this way. If you have bases loaded and no outs in Little League and you don't score, it's not the coach's fault.
Exactly.
It's not the coach's fault.
If you look back at the original, I mean, the game Thomas throws, I mean, he threw the game of his life because we're back here and I'm like, I can't believe Brian's throwing Thomas. But
that's a funny story about that.
I pulled Thomas to the side, and I gave him a speech that one of my college coaches gave me playing in the regional go to the World Series, actually. And I told him, I said, Thomas, this is your moment to shine. I said, block everything out. This is your moment. And if you know Thomas doesn't care. He's a competitor. He is 100% competitor. So it didn't matter if we threw him or not. Thomas, in his mind, is going to go out there, and he's going to shut you down every single time. It's just the way he is. And, in the game before that, we had to pull the reins in. I think he went out there and threw
six pitches.
Six pitches.
I went out and made that pitching change because they were so strict at regionals that Brian had to go report it. So I went out there and made the pitching change to Thomas and get out of the mound. And Thomas says, Coach Mike, I got it. I said, no, you don't. No, you don't. Not today.
Not today.
But what we asked of Thomas tonight versus Tennessee was we just asked him to get us 6 outs.
Yeah.
That's what we kept saying. And every time he come back in, I would meet him at the dugout. I'd be like, do you got 3 more? Can you get me 3 more? And he was just engaged that day. And that's always been Thomas's MO as a pitcher. When he's on, he's on. I mean, if he's off, he's off. And Thomas is going to make it as a hitter, first baseman. I seen him actually playing center field the other day at E.B. Aycock. And, he is going to be a player for a long time. And you're going to read about him for years to come. Because he's a workhorse.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing about these guys. When they were 10, they were 9, second place in the district. When they were 10, second place in the state. They were 11, second place in the regional. They were 12, second place in the United States. The good thing about that is it's always kept them hungry. If you go to next level and you walk in there and you don't either see Thomas Barrett, Matthew Mateus, Chase Anderson, them boys are in there. They're working. And everybody is working hard. And that's the one thing that I love because they're not satisfied. Yeah. A lot of kids could have been satisfied and been like, I was on television. This is the highlight. This is as high as my baseball career is going to get. But for some of them boys, they're not looking at it like that.
Yeah.
Their goal is to be on ESPN again. And I'm not saying that they definitely will because it takes a lot of luck to get back there at that level. But they got the right mindset to do it.
Yeah.
And that makes me very proud of them kids.
We could probably stay here another hour and talk about your memories from Williamsport, but just for me, the joy those kids have. Seeing Drew out there dancing, the smiles that they had, just being kids, out there having fun. But each one of you guys, just try and pick out 1 or 2 things that really sticks with you that you took from that trip.
You want to go first?
Nah, you better go. I need to think. I'll say that people don't know. We only played 5 games there, We were there for 16 days. So when we all get together, you know, Carson and Bryce came out to Little League tryouts and everything, and it's like I never talk about the Little League World Series with anybody other than when we all get together, it's all the jokes and everything. It's all the talk about when we were in the rooms. You know, it was always constant playing around, joking around and stuff. And that's what made us real close, and I think it's also what made us successful. But one thing that I can't pinpoint one thing. I can just think about all the, you know, jokes and laughs. The one thing. Here you go for television. Thomas Barrett story. Thomas Barrett story. Okay, so supposedly in the regional, he peed on the floor. Okay, well, I told Thomas, I said, son, if you pitch good against Tennessee, I don't care where you pee from here on out. So the next morning after we played Tennessee, I walk outside my door, and there's a cup of pee sitting outside my door at the hotel, and it with a note that says, Coach Mike, I pee where I want. So that's probably the funniest story of the whole probably the whole entire summer for me.
I say when y'all get together 20 years from now.
Oh man, we still joke about it. It's hilarious.
Man, two things for me. I'll say one for the crowd at home of how hard they worked. You know, we watched Japan. You know, first day we got there, we watched Japan. And me and Mike kind of looked at each other that night, and we were like, man, if we don't do what they're doing, we're never going to hit.
They run like a military formation. It's incredible.
You know, and the complex is amazing. You get what you want there. I mean, they've got just infield fields. They got baseball fields. They got, you know, they've got whatever you want. But I remember going to the cage, and me and Brian would get in the cage, and we would throw as hard as we could. I mean, we're probably throwing 80 miles an hour to these kids. And day one, you know, we couldn't hit. By day 5, they were laying into it. I mean, you know, and it was just amazing. And other teams would watch us hit, you know, and they'd watch me and Brian up there. And, you know, Brian's a professional pitcher. You know, I was a college pitcher. And, you know, we're throwing the ball as hard as we can at half the distance. And these kids are just hitting line drives all over the cage. And I think it is an intimidation factor for some other teams when they had to play us. And then my story, I walk into the room. And, you know, the games are going on and everything, and all the boys are just kind of sitting, hanging out quiet. And, you know, I was kind of like, why aren't you guys down at the field? And, you know, everybody's kind of like, well, Coach, we don't want to be at the field. And I said, well, let's cut the games on. You know, it's the opening night. Well, let's watch a game. And
TV.
And Ashton Byers looks at me and is like, Coach, we don't want to watch TV. And, you know, my thought process was, you guys have been watching TV this whole time, and now all of a sudden you don't even want to cut the game off for the game. So I go over there and cut the TV on, and it's black. So Will Casey broke the TV. Woo, he broke the TV night one. So we didn't have a TV in our room from day one of the Little League World Series for the entire trip. You know, Will broke it, and I don't even know if it ever got mentioned to anybody at the complex.
One other thing we used to do, I did this bad to the kids. We had these aunts and uncles, Aunt Carol and Uncle Doug. Well, they sign us up for practice, do your laundry, make sure your room's clean or whatever like that. So if I go in the room, you know, we had a real joking relationship. So if they did something, if I had to do something like that I didn't like, or sometimes if I just wanted to be mean or whatever, I walk out and be like, Aunt Carol, that room's not clean. And here she comes, just marching in there as fast as she can, clean to get this room cleaned up. I don't think they were too fond of them sometimes. But I always did that too, because they would always sit outside our room on a golf cart. So I walk out there and be like, their room's not clean. They won't pick up their uniforms. And they were Johnny on the spot, them two were.
No, but the volunteers out there are amazing. Got to meet some of those. But
yeah. The Major League Baseball game was a great thing.
That was
real cool. When they came, the day of we played California, when they came in our dugout,
yeah.
And they were a little behind schedule. So they had to sit in our dugout. Yadier Molina, Colton Wong, Dexter Fowler, they're in our dugout while we're sitting in the dugout too. And Yadier Molina, you know, he's an intimidating kind of guy. He don't say a whole lot. But I was like, what's up, man?
Hey, you remember Colton Wong told us when we played California, right before we played them, he said, man, y'all go out there and 10-run them. They beat Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then at the game later on that night, he comes up to us and he's like, man, y'all did more than 10 runs in California. And I you know, kind of that thought process of a major league second baseman's walking up and telling 12-year-old kids this.
They're watching you.
Yeah.
Dexter Fowler, was out there, and he came up to us secretly and was like, "Hey man, I'm from Georgia. Go Southeast." And so Corey Scott is right there at the thing. He's like, "Mike, give him a Game Time Gear Southeast hat." So I grab it and I run it out there to Dexter Fowler, and he puts the hat on and everything, wearing a Southeast hat out there at Williamsport. So I mean, stuff like that. We met Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Met Reggie Jackson. He was an interesting character.
Eddie Murray.
Met Eddie Murray.
I met David Ross. I mean,
Cubs fan over here,
Brian,
Coach Jake.
and Brian Fields actually had about a 30-minute conversation with Aaron Boone right before the game. I mean, and somehow they have a random friend, mutual friend, and I mean they're at the thing just carrying on the conversation, and you kind of look back and say, Brian, you know,
that's the Yankees manager.
He's a Yankees manager now. You know, manager to manager. He's a little bit, you know.
Oh, and Jessica Mendoza was like, I'm going for y'all, like secretly, and so I got her a Southeast hat during the Major League game, and I took it up there to her, and she wore that during the Major League game. So I mean, you're right. We could sit here and talk another hour, couldn't we, Chris?
But you said how long it's going to take. I said an hour. But we really could. I mean, this has been a lot of fun. We might have to do it. We might have to do a take two, but
yeah.
But I appreciate you guys coming down.
I appreciate the invite. This has been a good time.
Yeah, it was a fun summer, and just appreciate all you guys do to kind of be role models for these kids and show them how to play the game the right way. But thanks for coming on.
And we appreciate what you do, man. You giving the exposure to Greenville Little League. You know, it's a great league, and like Mike said, I mean, it's been a great league for 50+ years. I mean, there's no one season or one person going to make or break Greenville Little League. I mean, it's been there. I mean, it's as strong, and Weingarts does a great job with the fields and with the structure of it. So we appreciate y'all kind of giving it the exposure.
Yeah, you do a great job covering all this stuff. I mean, I read your write-ups and everything, and Brian, I still read your write-ups too, buddy.
All right. Once again, I want to thank Mike Vaughn and Jake Allen for coming on, and just join us next week on Sports Route. We'll be here at Tiebreakers from 6 to 7 p.m. next Monday. Signing off.